Hello? Okay. So, I apologize for being late. I set up alarm clock at 5:50, at 6, at 6:15, at 6:23, at 6:26, and at 6:30. And I woke up on the alarm clock set up on 6:26. So I apologize for being a little bit late. And I accidentally started the new stream instead of the existing one. So yeah, sorry about that. Um, we're gonna start a little bit sooner. Anytime. Maybe in 2 minutes. Okay. Open. Festung Europa. Yo. Ah, okay. It's time for me to wake up. So, control of the rifts is worthy, kurwa. Control of the rifts is worth any sacrifice. So, the next page is just, the page about people who wrote this book or did create the Conflict 47 in general. Conflict 47 created by Clockwork Goblin, written by Dana Havitson. You can read it for yourself. I don't really care. I read it before, so yeah. Uh, take your time. Cool. Okay. Okay, make me mad, I guess. Uh, you don't need to read this, like battle.com. You don't really need this to read. You will. Okay. Whatever. Okay, whatever. So we have the contents, like, as we know that every book will have 5 scenarios, or it should have. In the rule book there are also 5 scenarios, even though I counted 4, but maybe I'm just blind. And the first one was literally at the beginning or something like that. Oh, yeah. So, Operation Valentine, Operation Pluto, Operation Touchdown, Operation Valentine again. Okay, I'm too tired to read that, but there are 5 scenarios in here for sure. 1, 2, 3, 4. Maybe Dresden Defiant 5? Fucking shit. The living are bothersome. They bulk at unpleasantness of war. The dead are inscrutable. They are the perfect soldiers with death. We will yet make perfect soldiers of the living. Albrecht was ogling. So this is Vorozogling, even if someone didn't know. This beautiful fella. Yeah, by the way, I was literally thinking that this zombie, I'm sorry, I meant Totenkorb, uh, with the MP40 will be able to shoot in a game, like before the update from metal to plastic sprue. So I made post on Instagram. Follow me there if you don't. Uh, that hey, it will be cool if the zombies, I mean Totten Corps, were able to shoot, but also have the -1 to hit penalty like the inexperienced guys. Because let's be honest, his Totten Corps dead. I don't think he will be so accurate as the living. And World Games responded to me with emoji that have bow eyes. You know, like, wow, interesting idea. But I'm not gonna tell anything more. You know, so that was something. Uh, I did posted the screenshot with World Games reacting to my message I sent. Oh well, whatever. So the first page of the Lorebook is about the Totem Corpse. Down of the war rift. Shit. Sorry, I just woke up, okay? Down of the rift war. On the 12th March 1944, the world changed. The United States dropped an atomic device on Dresden, instantly silencing the lives of hundreds of thousands. In the wake of the devastation, an enigmatic breach tore the barrier between the realities asunder and spoiled the hit hero unknown energies upon the earth. The nations of the world, already entrenched in throes of the world war, were ready to seize upon any opportunity to gain an upper hand in the ongoing conflict. With the emergence of the rift energy, the incredible rate of scientific development at the head of the global arms race. Already at the fever pitch was injected with renewed vigor the application of the rift energy to create what came to be dubbed Rift Tech, enabled scientists and researchers to craft those technologies previously rendered impossible by the limitations of era. In truth, the seeds for what would eventually come to be known as the Rift War were a sound centuries before the fateful day. Sinister forces had conspired to ensure the coming of the Rift Wars. The I'm sorry, multifaceted Grünes Gewölbe, the Green Vault, is devoted to the manifestation of an agenda that has spanned millennia. This organization had since the time of Augustus the Strong in early 18th century orchestrated events behind the scenes via an extensive network of secret societies. Their ultimate goal had only been stymied by the available technology. The Manhattan Project was to be their salvation. Okay, how do I even read this? I never heard of this word. Like, okay, I read the book before. I googled what it means, but I forgot. Not gonna do it again because I'm lazy. But it became clear the United States, in collaboration with Canada and Great Britain, were the best poised to crack the mysteries of atomic energy. The Green Vault set its agents on accelerating the program. Over the course of 1943, J. Robert Oppenheimer made rapid progress in developing a weapon of such potency that it would bring the war to here. Did I say heel or here? Because it's written heel. Okay. War to heel. By early 1944, a workable prototype weapon was ready. On 6th February, the Trinity test was conducted in New Mexico, proving the viability of the bomb, but producing an entirely unexpected side effect: a tear in the fabric of space. The rift had opened. So basically, that's almost the introduction. By the way, some people say it's like a made up story. I mean, it's a made up story, but oh, the American government being infiltrated is the old plot of the old movies since I don't know 50s or 60s, I would say. Um, yeah, like I'm not saying it didn't happen. American government is infiltrated even now. Uh, just look at the people who take the money from APEC, for example. Like they push in their agenda. Yeah, corruption at its finest. Thank God I live in Slavic countries that the most corrupted politicians only what they do is steal uh traffic agents or um do tax evasion and work with mafia. Yep. And not like the Americans that have like doing it with the kids, sacrificing kids, eating human meat and various horrible things. Oh my. Oh, okay, let's go. I need the more of this book. To the Green Vault. The Los Alamo Rift had opened a no inevitability, allowing allied researchers access to Rift energies was necessary concession to facilitate their own plans. Keen to end the war, and with the whispers of trusted advisors in his car. Okay, that's ears, and I read it as cars. Keen to end the war and with whispers of trusted advisors in his ears, United States President Franklin D. Roosevelt immediately moved to employ the terrifying new weapon, both against the heartland of Nazi Germany and the Japanese home islands. Before the newly emergent rift had been fully documented and understood, two devices were prepared. Old Man was destined for Tokyo, whilst Big Boy, originally designed for Berlin, was late in the day diverted to Dresden as a result of a meeting that took place on 1st March 1944 with William J. Donovan, head of the Office of Strategic Services. Services. Okay. Notably, Donovan has not been seen publicly since that meeting. The B-29 super fortress destined for Tokyo never reached its destination, being brought down over the island of Iwo Jima on 11th March. One day before the Dresden bombing, all the United States attempts to ascertain the fate of all the men, or get eyes on the aircraft's crash site, have yet to prove fruitful. Yeah. Immediately following the Dresden bombing, the Green Wall finally made themselves known to the world at large. The Third Reich had now served its purpose, using Hitler's failure to prevent the tragedy of Dresden and decrying the allying Axis forces in Italy and on the Ostfront. They denounced the incompetence of the German leadership. Carefully secreted devotees of the Green Vault, strategically placed in key positions in the aristocracy and all branches of the German military, ensured minimal resistance to the takeover. Former leadership would acquiesce to the will of the Green Vault, or they would be discarded. In other words, killed or used for the experiments with the rift. Uh, Pockets of the residents were fierce, particularly with the SS, but were just as fiercely put down. Within a few weeks, the Green World had all but swept away the National Socialist regime and had set about reorganizing the Axis nations into monolithic entity, drastically reshaping them societally, culturally, and industrially into the new republic. Few details of the revolution were known outside of the Axis nations, and elsewhere war plans continued unabated. The Allies had already been in the midst of planning Operation Overlord, the invasion of the continent that would see Europe freed from the yoke of German oppression. Perceived German intransigence in the face of nuclear adversity imbued those plans with even more urgency. The invasion would be enacted as planned. So yeah, there's the quote from the Preston Laker, former OSRD. Nothing stokes the fires of war possibility quite like war. Now, it goes further the block, the text. In the intervening months, the Manhattan Project had expanded in scope, employing the finest minds from the United States, Canada, and Great Britain to study the after effects of the Trinity test. Together, they slowly began to unravel the secrets of the rift. Completely unaware that the second rift now existed in Dresden, and that their Axis counterparts were leagues ahead of them. The Los Alamos site was resign, redesigned, redesignated, I apologize, redesignated Area 51, swiftly becoming the most secure facility in the United States, and for a brief time, the most secretive. This period of secrecy was not to last. On 7th April 1944, intrigued by the reports emanating from the site, Roosevelt, despite the cardiovascular illness ravaging him, visited Area 51. For 7 days, nothing was heard from the president before he emerged a new man, strong, healthy, apparently cured of his disease. Okay. The revolution was seized upon by the press with 2020 April 2010 22nd of April declared Miracle Day. Just 4 days later, Roosevelt addressed the joint houses declaring the ongoing war righteous crusade against the scourge of Nazism, treacherous empires, and good measure godless communism. And in doing so, implicated that the United States had been ordained for such a task. Roosevelt's speech started the country in a fear, fearful, with public support for the war and military recruitment reaching an unprecedented high. The implications resonated far beyond the borders of the United States, not least in Eastern Europe. Contrary to the Americans' belief, the Soviets were far from blind to the existence of the Los Alamos Rift. Indeed, the Soviet Union had plied a substantial trade in espionage, with many agents planted within the Manhattan Project many years prior, even as back as its nascent state. Stalin issued an edict: if the United States would share the secrets of the rift, he would forgive Roosevelt's transgressions of his 26th of April speech. When no answer was forthcoming, the Soviet Union declared America an enemy of the state on 1st May of 1944. Basically, Stalin got butthurt. He said, Roosevelt, give me plans and stuff, research from Rift, and we will forgive you. Smoke, smoke. Love you, Stalin. Roosevelt was like, ghosted. Over the next few days, the British and Commonwealth nations were forced to formally declare their support for the United States, severing their old ties with the Soviet Union, resulting in the formation of the Pan-Atlantic Alliance. Through reluctant, through, re, through reluctant to continue to provide access to Los Alamos research to British scientists, despite British and Canadian involvement in the Manhattan Project, the importance and imminence of the D-Day meant that the United States could ill afford for a fracture in their alliance. 2. Jeopard Fuck. United States could ill afford for a fracture in their alliance to jeopardize the operation, allowing to Roosevelt's concealed Green. I hope I read it right. I have no clue. the British to develop their own avenues of rift research in addition to any rift tech that would supply by the continuing Lend-Lease arrangement. Well, here it is. The other allies were pushed to sever ties with the Soviets, with the Soviet bloc, because United States said so. So yeah, to be honest, when we will be reading this book a little bit later, like further, we will know the alliance isn't just the paradise. It's kinda meh. Americans do not like the AI, and British do not like the fanaticism, like using the religion, doing the war and stuff. But by the way, this is kinda how the young people would say the United States in Conflict 47 is kinda based. Because in the real United States, said, well, the supporters, the Polish said that the Pope Leo is Antichrist and various any slurs or whatever, which is kind of sad. But that's what happens when you have the evangelical Christians, sometimes supported by the Israel for some reason, because they both religions, or the denomination of the Christianity, the evangelicals. I'm sorry for my pronunciation. It takes time for me to fully wake up, okay? And I don't know if it's Hasidic Jews or normal Jews. They mainly orient on the second coming of the Jesus Christ. And Jews say it's the first coming because of the Messiah, because they don't think that Jesus is the Messiah. Like, okay, whatever. Like the George Bush was even into this apocalyptic scenario. He was fanatic. Me as a Catholic, I didn't. I was like, okay, like, bro, chill. Yeah, it was kind of too much of his, fascination over the second coming of Jesus Christ while doing the worst to the countries in the Middle East. Like, what the fuck are you even doing, George Bush? But whatever. It has been 25, 23. I don't know. I'm fucking tired to even do basic math. It was decades, after the war in Middle East. If okay, but yeah, the United States is kind of base, even though they are not under the Catholic Church. But whatever. Well, so as you may see, the Conflict 47 isn't just it's just like a Wolfenstein. Monkey noises. Why playing Conflict 47 when I can play Wolfenstein? Wolfenstein. Like, go fuck yourself, in my opinion. So the Battle game is actually trying to do something new. Present the the events from the reality and took some of the real life people in those events and transfer them into something else, like add a character. Some people do not really like the Wild Games writing because they say it is just like boring history book. Like, you went to school, you had of course the history, and there was no much of detail written down, just like this war happened in here. Uh, this country was fighting against this country. The first one won. The second one lost. Lol. So it's kind of boring. Which I cannot say anything about it because I really don't play bolt action. I prefer conflict. Let's go, baby. But yeah, I don't really read scenarios. Like each one costs like 20 euros, and they published a lot of scenarios, more than 10, maybe 20, 30. Maybe I'm um overreacting. But basically, I don't even have that much of money to buy all of them and play them. I would rather just do, random stuff. Okay, all the what? Okay, one, two, three, four. Now, all the while, amongst the ruins of Dresden, drastic steps have been taken to ensure the future security of the Axis nations and of the Green Vault. Despite the devastation and the countless death, Dresden is now the seat of power of the Green Vault, the heart of Festung Europa. A new age of warfare has dawned. The new weapons capable of hitherto unmanageable destruction, nightmarish abominations, stripped of all humanity and death on an unparalleled scale, all born of perverted science, are said to be unleashed upon the earth. Through the fires of World War II are yet to be quenched. The stage has been set. The stage has been set for the Rift War. Okay, so here it is. The second war didn't really end. It transformed into a much bigger war, more a little one, into a Rift War. So yeah. Uh, so basically, what we so far the bombing of Dresden was planned. Like, okay, if you go like further one, I'm gonna add this. The bombing of Dresden was planned. They even set up the facility underneath the city to make a scientific research on Dresden being bombed, you know, because they believe the nukes are a really powerful weapon and they wanna see the aftermath or if something fruitful will come out with the sacrifice of the civilians. Dresden incident happened and they used the like even if the rift didn't open, okay? Like who cares? They will be high. They would also still uh replace the current government of the Nazi Germany and maybe change the course of the war. Everything is possible. So it will be just World War II, but yeah, nothing else would happen. Maybe it will be end the same, except the justice wouldn't be delivered because probably Hitler was executed or something like that for his failure to protect Dresden. So yeah, and as we know, the Green Vault is infiltrated in American government too. So yeah, maybe even if they also trial uh they would give all of the Greenwald members just, I don't know, let's just say 3 months at jail, like in prison. Like, yeah, justice is served, but you know how it is. Lower the sentence, as we may see it in some events in the America. Few politicians or celebrities like the Diddy got like I think 6 months for stuff, heinous stuff he did, while others get 21, 23 years for I don't know if they do anything. So guys, if you have status, money and connections, you want the life in material world. So yeah, that's my assumption how it would end if the weird didn't happen. But to be honest, if they lose, then what will happen? Like, would the Americans take the Germany as potential ally, or the pressure of the some of the Jews resulting into making the justice really hard for the Germany, like the Norman trial and the half the Germany into Eastern and Western bloc, if that would happen. I wouldn't, because let's be honest, when the Hitler wasn't in the power, because the Green Volt executed him. Would that even happen? Like, it's a new government, to be honest, but they did the Holocaust and shit. Okay, but Hitler did it. We didn't. Okay, why didn't you release all the people in the concentration camps? We use them as test subjects. Or they will even say that, because let's be honest, they have the members infiltrated in the American government. Maybe they would be like, okay, like, hey, fellow Jews, listen, Hitler is dead. Justice was served. Justice was served. Okay. Uh, so no normal trial like it would normally happen. So we'll just do the slap on the wrist and bye bye. Yeah, that would be unpleasant for all of us, for Europeans and for others, even for political prisoners, because they were first like thrown into those camps. I think. Well, the war camps, the concentration camps were okay. Whatever. I'll just move. Otherwise, I'm gonna feel asleep again and be lost in my thoughts again, because I love thinking. Now let's read the list. The the particles emitted by what has been added, kurwa. The particles emitted by what has been dubbed a rift are beyond fascinating, apparently more complex and potent than any other known source of energy. Our first great challenge is to effectively harness and store these particles for study in a more controlled environment. So far, the direct exposure of the rift to many compounds has resulted in notable effects at the molecular level. We have not yet ascertained ascertain okay ascertained its effects on organic matter, though I hazard to predict they would be most profound. The applications of these new sources of energy are potentially innumerable, world changing, but as ever, it has fallen to military madmen to dictate the best use of scientific resources. Rumors swirl that they intend to employ the weapon as soon as next week. Its ramifications are not yet understood. They don't know what they have. Excerpt from the diary of the Roberta Wells. Great. So that's all. Man, there were like 3 people watching the stream. Now there is like one, and that's probably, YouTube bot. Now there are 2 people watching, so hello there. Now let's read the other stuff on the city of the dead. The city, sorry. So, by the title, it's talk about the Dresden because the bomb did kaboom on the Dresden. On 12th of March, 1944, when the atom bomb fell, Dresden had been consumed by fire. A wave of devastation had erupted from the city center, incinerating all life in the immediate area. Homesteads, factories, and historic Baroque structures all turned to rubble. For many days afterwards, ash fell over a radius of many kilometers with a gentleness at odds with the destruction rooted in its creation. The inferno of the depth stretched well beyond the blast site. Dresden was home to many hundreds of thousands survivors in the suburbs eventually fell to burn wounds or radiation or were otherwise trapped under rubble to starve or bleed out. The very air was unbreathable, and many choked on the fumes. The stench of burning flesh or other nauseous fumes had permeated the city. The Elbe was choked with corpses, its waters undrinkable. And yet, military forces rendered no aid. Rather, forces under the command of Oberst Albrecht von Zogling secretly blockaded the city under the guise of assistance, preventing any escape. It would not have served his great experiment by depriving the Schreckenzone of as many viable human specimens as possible. Over the next few days, the dead that had not been entirely incinerated began to walk again, vindicating the von Zogling's theories. The success of the environment only accelerated the demise of the yet living, those filled by vicious attacks from the reanimated that would, in turn, rise following prolonged exposure to newly opened rift. It was these days. Kurva. I meant it was these dead that were eventually unleashed in Normandy 4 months later as the very first Totenkorps. Since that the hateful day, a blanket of darkness has enveloped the city, save for the erratic and occasional flashes of electricity which fork through the storm-ridden skies at unorthodox angles. The environs and nearby settlements have been long since been abandoned, and the carpet of ash that seemed to have fallen across all of Saxony had been all but swept away by 3 years of unnatural storms. This tempestuous microclimate stems from the very center of the bomb site, the Dresden Rift. Around the rift, a whole new city has sprung up amongst the crumbling ruins, one composed of prefabricated labs, barracks, and factories, a hive from which all the abominations and terrible weapons of war conceived by the putrid imagination of the new republic all originated. So it is. The Walking Dead. So I'm gonna add this information. The first Totem Corps were actually mindless. I mean, really mindless. They were, they would stuff them in truck, go to the battlefield, release the Totem Corps. Also, the content Totem Corps should be deployed where the as close as to the enemies are, because if those Totem Corps saw Germans, they would follow them all the back where the Germans were. It would be kinda funny and a failure. So there was like truck, in truck there were like those zombies. There were like the group of Americans fighting somewhere here. They would release those zombies. Zombies will see the fight of the Americans, and they will go after them instead of the soldiers in the truck or anywhere else. And they will go away again. With the new unit, something like the Totenkar platoon commander that can order or manipulate with the Totenkorps. I have no clue how. Or I just don't remember. I don't remember. Or it wasn't stated in this book. I don't know. I don't know. Um, they can order the Totenkorps, meaning like in tabletop, the corps cannot take objectives. You have objective, and when you play the objectives you need to take them, and you take them by placing the unit on it, and it's like the unit has this objective. Yeah. uh and total comes couldn't do that at all, because they are minded zombies. They would wander all from the objective if they saw a squirrel, you know around the objective, and they would follow the squirrel or something else, leaving the objective vulnerable. Now, that's a different story now. If you have the Totenkopf commander that can be bought separately with his bodyguards for 15 euros, which is really cheap. When you are like from the Warhammer 40k like I am, it's really cheap because those uh characters and heroes, well, characters cost 32 euros and 50 cents in Warhammer 40k, and heroes cost 37, 38 euros. Yeah. The cheapest one is from the Admec that costs 26, or it's for the Eldari. That's These cost 26 euros. I have no clue what they do because no one buys them. Funny. So yeah. So as I said, they can be bought separately for 15 euros, or in the Totenrote Platoon box that costs 132 euros, but you can find the box ranging from 106 to 110 up to 122 on third party, shops. So yeah, you could get it for cheaper. Okay, the artwork is sick. When I saw that, I came. Oh, like look at that. Bombers. Well, the planes with the fireflies. You can see the fireflies because you know the blue glowing there. And the Ursus infantry being turned into Totenkorps. This guy has a weapon. I don't know if it's just in tabletop. Like I have no clue. In tabletop they don't have any weapons. Okay, I mean firearms. Sorry, they have like showers, bayonets, and whatever, but not sure if they actually use it. I would say they use it. You know, it's like the memory thing from the past when they were alive, or they just do not know and they clench the knife or the bayonet they have with all its power, with all of their power, and they stab, stab, stab. I don't know if they can use those weapons effectively, like cut the throat with the enemy from the behind. I don't think so. I think they just stab mindlessly. So yeah. Uh, and the firearms, I don't know if they will shoot like in the lore, or they will use it as melee weapon. And this is something. You can say this vehicle is completely different from this one. This is a new one that hasn't been released. I don't know when it will be. But we see the Totenkorb, Stacheltruppen, and the Schreckwolfen. I was like, Barold, I release them. Or just release the data sheet and I will kit bash them. I don't care. I love kit bashing, or I would convert them, like do a little bit of conversion. I don't care. I love it. Just release it as data sheet. Please. I wanna play uh with Totenkorb Stahltruppen and the Schreckwolfen. I think they are damage 7 when they are not surging. And when they are surging, they are damage value of 8. I don't play them, so I don't have this unit, so I cannot tell. I think it's the same with the Russos, but except for being really fast, like with the Ursos, where they are surging, they do other stuff. I don't know if it's like the combat or they do the howl thing when when the howl thing will fuck up your morale, like the enemy's morale. So yeah, I don't know what they will do. Like they would cost the same, but there will be damage value of 7 or 8. They could be higher because the Totem Corps are damage value of 6. And the normal guys, the veterans, are damage value of 5. So plus 1 toughness because they are dead, you know. So they would be automatically damage value of 8, but they wouldn't have that thing with the hovel and the ability as the living Shrek Wolfen have. I don't know how they would balance it. Because Conflict 47 is the most unbalanced, balanced, or balanced and unbalanced game ever. You have so many units that are so powerful, but they always have backdoors you can deal with them. Shrek Wolfen, you don't want them to charge into your unit. Boom. Set your unit somewhere in the terrain, set your unit and and set kurwa. I cannot think. Set the Schreckwolfen and your unit between the terrain. They can do nothing. They will be awkwardly just going here, going there. Funny. So yeah, that's example. There are like various means of each unit to be dealt with by anyway. And many ways, like the terrain thing, I said it as an example. You can do it with the anti-vehicle weapons, okay, but it's like no-brainer. I mean, like the actual tactics here being used, as well with the terrain and whatever. Stahltruppen, out of them 7. Nice. But they have no weapon besides the 8 light anti-tank cannon. There is like only one. I'm not sure, only one in Scott they should be used, as I remember correctly. Not sure. But yeah, wait, yeah. One light 80 gun for the unit. It costs 35 points. And with just one 80 gun in a unit, you cannot do pretty much. You can do. It would be cool if you have like 3 of them or 4. You know what I mean. So you need to result into multiple units with the 80 guns, but the 3 guys only cost 90 points. Remember that. So 90 points plus 35 is 125 for 3 guys. But also, I would say, taking them 3-man squad, taking them as fanatics or stubborn. Yeah, they have fanatics, attack fighters. But I would say something with fanatics, I think. Fucking shit, I need to look at their data sheet. Because I actually do not remember. And Stahltruppen is most used unit in my army. That's so weird. I should know that. I should remember their stats like every time. Oh, so let me check it to be quick. Yes, they are damage value of 7, I know that. Oh, Fanatics, yes, that's the upgrade. So yeah, uh, it would have been worth it to take 3-man squad as Fanatics. Like when it comes to when it comes to the platoon commander. Okay, we have like 2 guys or 3. Uh, it is worthless because if they have like 1 guy, they get a 1 pin. If they is taking care of 2 guys, he then needs to do morale test. But I don't know how it is now with the rule with the for the veterans. Oh yeah, the veteran rule is like, yeah, you take up the NCO and the whole unit doesn't need to take the whole fucking moral test on whatever. It just ignores it because they are seasoned soldiers. They just know what to do in the next, in without the NCO, and that's all. That's the rule. So yeah. Oh, so taking the 3-man squad as fanatics. I know it's just 2 points, but sometimes you can be 3-man squad 2, 4, 6. You can be 6 points more of the designated force you decided to be. Like you want to be, you can be 6 points over, or I would be rather 6 points less from the actual number, like 1500, than being 6 points over the stated points we agreed on. You know, that seems fair. So yeah, that. But to be honest, I take everyone as fanatics. Though I probably shouldn't, because for the 3-man or 2-man squad, uh, for the commander it doesn't really matter. I would say it's just 3 guys. And even for the smaller units of random guys, it is worthless because they will be taken out anyways. But if you have like 4, 5, 6 men squad, yeah, 6. I understand. Take them as fanatics. Whatever. So now let's take a look at Western Europe. Following the Dresden bombing, the Axis had been mostly uh, concerned with the consolidatory efforts to establish the new regime, eliminate internal resistance, and reorganize its troops into the singular Volksarmy. The most significant of the resources were devoted to the construction of the research and military facilities in what had been dubbed the Schrecken Zone, the area immediately within the vicinity of the rift. The technological development that this would enable would be the difference between victory and defeat rather than supreme tactical use of the existing Axis forces, mismanaged as they had been by the politicians of the now discarded Third Reich. In the eyes of the new republic, the defense of the Atlantic Wall was to become a stalling exercise, its ultimate failure a foregone conclusion. As expected, on 6th of June 1944, the Allies launched Operation Overlord, the largest, ambitious military operation ever conducted in conjunction with extensive airborne landings. Operation Overlord, the landing signs and beaches in Normandy were the gateway to liberate Europe, beginning with the Curva, beginning with France. The Axis defenders fought fiercely, but were overwhelmed, leading to an established beachhead on the Cotentin Peninsula. I shouldn't do this stream so early in the morning, really. Cotentin Peninsula focused around the towns of Carentan and Caen. However, the Axis defenders had been constructed to fight for every last inch of the ground, and the initial successes of the D-Day landing began to ebb away as the Allied advance faltered, exactly what the new Republic had hoped. Like, yeah, fighting against the dead for the first time is kinda psycho, not gonna lie. It, it does thing to soldier, you know? Like, I would be fucked up. Like, does it even fucking alive? And imagine they did this even to normal guys, like the enemies and whatever. Literally, you could see your body. You you enlisted into the war, walking again, but gonna ready to bite your face off, and you cannot put him down with simple headshot because he can reanimate or he can ignore the wound. So you need to ensure the total elimination of Totenkopf, you need to burn it with the flamer, destroy the whole fucking body. I'm not sure how it is with the heads because I haven't seen, or the World Games hasn't published any Totenkopf with the head. So I assume if it's headless, it cannot walk again. But I'm not sure how the reanimation protocol works. If it's like, let's just say, you dismember the Totenkopf, the rift would go hushisho, 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 and the whole parts would assemble one by one into one corp, or the parts that could be functional, and walk again, or the existing body or parts of the body attached to the head would only those walk again, and the limbs and whatever would be left alone. That would be a fucking funny project idea. To do something with that, like the animation or whatever. Okay, let's keep reading. We thought that Tunisia was bad. The Kasserine Pass was the hell itself. Normandy showed us what the hell really looked like, and it was just beginning. Sergeant M. Kurva, I cannot read this. Sergeant M. Denik, 16th Infantry Regiment. Operation Goodwood and Cobra, launched a week apart in the late June, aimed to fix this problem for the Allies over the course of the next month, with American and the Commonwealth reinforcements flowing in and the dwindling numbers of Axis troops. The stoicism of the defenders eventually crumbled on 20th, 28th 20th July. United States forces achieved a march south after a breakthrough at St. Lou, resulting in almost total Allied control of the Cotentin Peninsula, and were poised to capitalize on their momentum. The following day, the nature of warfare would forever change. Ah, nice picture. Very nice. June 1944, February 1947. US Rangers encountered the first born horrors in Bookage Country. So, guys, this could be a great made up scenario for the Conflict 47 battle. Like, have your unit only with the US Rangers and potential, like, Mud Skipper or something like really those mechs from the first edition, not the linebacker that came recently in second. You know what I mean? That would be so cool. Okay, like let's just do like one or two mechs or the rift units or three, like potential one. Just to say, hey, it's just the start of the war, the allies just produce, or it's the rift equipment isn't as produced as in the late 1947, or you know what I mean. So it could be a really fine idea to make a battle with it. Micros, Mike, if you are watching this, make a battle scenario out of this picture for fun. Rangers against Total Corps, you must do it. I don't have Americans, I only have British and Axis. Please do it. Yeah. Okay. Ram down in 20 seconds. Remember your training. Listen to your sergeants and corporals, and you will be alright. Okay, chaps. That is it. Good luck. Last words of the Captain A. Price Hamilton, 5th Battalion, East Yorkshire Regiment. They died. Lol. Allied troops attempt to expel a group of Totten Corps plaguing a small village in Normandy. Yay, 3 people are watching. Nice. All day, guys. The Totten Corps. Oh yeah. The Dresden bombing had resulted in a secondary effect. Most citizens not incinerated by the blast, or otherwise crushed under a fallen masonry, or burned to a crisp in the brawling inferno, did not stay down. Those corpses that had remained mostly intact on the periphery of the blast had been bathed in the rift energy and had risen anew, wondering the desolation this had been an unexpected and desired outcome for the Green World. The new republic now mobilized to exploit their dreadful new weapon and set it upon the Allies, threatening to break out of Normandy. On June 29th, July 1944, the Totenkorps, the Dead Corps, were unleashed on and the Rift War proper began. Oh, we have one like, that's nice. Someone is actually watching the stream, and it's not just random bots. Lol. Lol. I forgot to share the stream on, wait a minute, on my Discord server, I think. Self promotion, yes. Yes, join stream. The deployment of Totenkorps units would sow widespread terror amongst the Allied troops, showing a great resilience to small arms fire. They absorbed an enormous amount of punishment, required no supply line once deployed, and their relentless attacks afforded the Allies no respite. Totenkorps units were highly effective tar rapids. Sorry, I mean tar pits, buying the Axis the time to redeploy crucial assets and effective effect effective counter-offensives. Any chance to capitalize on the breakthrough had been lost. The impossible phenomenon of the dead man walking provoked shock and away from more than just the military forces fighting them. In the Area 51, realization dawned that Dresden bombing had opened second rift. Research in Los Alamos was entirely and immediately refocused onto the military applications of the rift energy. The Americans now knew that they weren't the only runners in the rift-fueled arms race, and that they were already losing in the rush to secure more scientific personnel, many of them British. Security checks became temporarily more lax, unwittingly leading to additional Soviet agents becoming embedded in Area 51. Secrets began to be passed back to the Russian motherland with even more frequency, and in Eastern Europe, the first iteration of the Soviet science city began to form. In another words, Americans did the, as we read, did the rift thing in Area 51. Canadians and Brits were the allies, and the process of sharing feeds was kinda strict. It take time. Now, the deployment of Cotton Corps, uh, they're a hole in logistics because, to be honest, allies were so fucked. They were so deep in the shit. They were like, okay, we need to produce as much of rift weaponry as possible. We cannot do this alone. So there were almost no security for the precautions for the allies. You know, like the verification thing, the trust. Whether it was just, hey Brits, Canadians, here's our rift research. Take it. Uh, I don't care where it end up or how it was transferred those data. Who cares? Just make the rift technology as fast as possible. Come up with something effective. That decision allowed the spies to gain more information from the research because it wasn't filtered and stuff. Good to know that. The Totenkorps problem. through the impact, particularly psychological, of the Total Corps. Introduction to the battlefield could not be denied. It was not without its pitfalls. The Walking Dead were not innumerable, even if it appeared that way to the Allies. For all their inhuman resilience, they were not invincible either. Their numbers dwindled rapidly in Normandy, and transport of additional units from Dresden to the front was dangerous and expensive enterprise. The dead were often as likely to step upon their handlers as they were to the foe. Also, to prevent the further dilapidation, they had to be kept at optimal temperatures, necessitating to the construction of the spe- specialist holding facilities. Initially, such facilities were located exclusively within the Schrecken zone, far from praying eyes, and were concerned with the preservation and storage of the reanimated Dresden victims. However, the Allied landings at Normandy on June 6th necessitated the acceleration of the Totenkorps deployment to the battlefield. Further facilities were hastily constructed throughout the Axis territory with their focus turned to the battlefield supply. To better appeal to the public sensibilities, these barracks were dubbed Regenerationszentren. I cannot read that. Regeneration Zentren. Regenerative care facilities. Nice. Through their macabre purpose has been increasingly clear to the common man over the years. Phil keeps such knowledge in check. Various modifications were also made to the number of existing transport designs, introducing temperature-controlled environments that would preserve the reanimated corpses whilst keeping them as docile as possible en route to the combat zone. What does it mean? It means Totenkorps were good, but expensive to transport. I, ca- I can see it like expensive on time, on the resource, because you need more people, like as much as possible, the handlers, to play with the contact Totenkorps, to go into the transport, risking their own lives. I can I can assume many handlers actually died to the Totenkorps, shredded, because they were not careful enough. But hey, potential +1 Totenkorps, I guess, to the unit. Then transported all the way from Dresden to the battlefield. We know later that the Totenkorps mobility is based upon how recently they died and transformed. I think it's just based on the death. So the corpse that was killed right now, at the moment, and revived through the rift, moves in different way than the corpse that was revived 3 days ago. 3 days after the death, or whole week. You know what I mean. Yeah. So I can assume, or we can assume in this second part of this text, it is meant that the temperature, they're basically like lizard. Maybe I fucking maybe I misunderstood the text, but basically the Totenkorps are like lizards. They need the verb to do something like the move, and when it is too cold, they are slow, like really slow. I have no clue. But I think it's just the temperature, but the preservation of the meat and keep it in docile. Like, okay, maybe there's a temperature thing, more just the preservation, and maybe it's impacted on their behavior. the behavior of Totenkorps. Amongst the American populace, a grim determination set in. The reports of literal corpses attacking men on the front lines did nothing to quell the forever set in motion by a miracle day. The delivery wrote by the Axis Land Roosevelt speech of April 26th, if anything, yet more vindication. The liberation of Europe was to be tortured in the media as truly a mission of righteous fury. Explanation: they see the Walking Dead. It's unnatural, satanic, because as we know, we Catholic we should bury the dead, do the ceremony because the life of death is sacred. And doing something unholy to the people of the past or the people that passed away is so unholy that it will be seen like, okay, we are actually the good guys. Even though in Conflict 47 there is no such thing as good guys, just as in the real life. There is war, we're gonna profit on it. It is messed up because in Conflict 47 it's a lot worse than in real life. Because if you lose, there is the risk of your country to disappear. But of course, some of those guys like that produce the guns or benefit from the war, they're like, fuck it, fuck the country, I'm gonna just move to the I don't know where and just live my life as I want to. I build my bunker, I'm gonna live there. It doesn't involve me, it's a state's problem, it's not mine. That kind of individualism. It's not my problem, it's their problem. That's kind of suicidal in its own nature. So yeah, it seems to soldiers like, yeah, we are the good guys, we don't do such unholy things. They are truly the bad guys. Uh, the the unholy Nazism. Okay, let's keep reading. The continued presence of Totenkopf in northern France allowed vast numbers of Axis personnel and material to retreat relatively unmolested. Over the next few weeks, Axis forces operated in series of defensive actions, fighting for every mile surrounded before melting eastwards to hastily erect new defensive positions. The Allies were forced to repeatedly halt their advances to deal with renewed infestation of the Totenkorps behind their own lines. Nevertheless, the determination Allies pushed onward, not least at General de Gaulle's arguing the liberation of Paris and the establishment of the Free French government was a key objective, and would do much to swell the morale of the Allies. Yeah, the morale is a huge thing, my guys. Logistics and morale go really together, and many people don't know that. Logistics is based on morale, and morale is based on logistics. Okay, maybe the logistics isn't based on morale, but the morale is heavily based on logistics. You may see like a lot of soldiers like in Ukraine, in Russia, that are equipped, under-equipped. That's the word. Under-equipped. Even the Russians, even the Ukrainians. Same for the Israel IDF. You can see the soldiers begging on live streams like donate to the IDF. Oi we need more money to buy equipment because our government hates us. Oi vey. Same for the, as I said, everyone and Palestinians, well, they do makeshift stuff, like, let's be honest. They pick up random guns, random molotovs, whatever, and they fight. So yeah, it's the logistics is really crucial for the morale because no one wants to fight with all the rusty rifles without body armor, proper equipment basically. You've seen their lives from missiles, from other groups of military that have ammunition. Like we get angry all on that. Fuck, I'm so fucking tired that I don't even remember reading this. As the dimension allies push the onboard allies, not general guys are going to the version of Paris situation will sell a dozen cheat. Yeah, that I read that. Support the assignment that he made a bunch of fragile resistance to the fight of was fierce that had been as it had been expected. I think I read it all. Given the number of their troops that had escaped envelopment in Normandy, it appeared that they had mostly bypassed Paris in favor of the more vital assets to defend. Over the next few months, the Allied momentum picked up again. It had become clear that the Axis were not able to maintain a constant supply of the Totenkorps to the front. The victims of Dresden may have been many, but they were finite. The front lines were reestablished and by December the Axis had been pushed back most of the way across France and further north as far back as the Belgian-German border. Great point. Like the total corps from Dresden are actually limited number. So it will be cool if they use all the dead corpses they can harness to make more potential Totem Corps. Yup. The Battle of the Bulge. On 16 December, the Axis launched Operation Watch am Rhine. A concerted counteroffensive through the Ardennes region of eastern Belgium, determined to split the United States and British Commonwealth armies and unlimitedly drive a wedge to the Atlantic coast in order to disrupt the logistical operations required to sustain both Allied armies. The Allies were surprised and overwhelmed by the spread and ferocity of the initial attack, spearheaded by the first deployment of the horrifying new Riftec creations in the first fruits, where they was born by Axis researchers. The first armored Axis Volkers unleashed in the bitter fighting of the Ardennes. I thought it's a Flammenschwein, but it's the other one with the light, I think. Light 20mm anti-tank gun. So we can see it. This thing is cool. I think it cost 136 points. Maybe I'm misremembering points, but the Flamer variant, Flammerspinne, costs 105 points, which is really good. But the Flammenspinne, even though it's a good weapon because the flavor, in tabletop, if it run out the ammo, and it will happen, it is useless. So you need to charge the unit to make it like melee. So I wouldn't take the flamer variant because of that. Even though it's cheap, I cannot roll dice. So and after first used, I ran out of the ammo for the flamer. So yeah, So I would rather use this variant over the with the flamer one. Festung, Okay, 1.5 hours passed. I should wake up. By now, I should be awake, full of energy. Yeah, full of energy when you slept for 3 or 4 hours. Yeah, fuck me. Spin armored walkers scuttled through the forest, largely unperturbed. Yeah, I shouldn't do the streams so early in the morning. Largely unperturbed by the treacherous conditions, dispensing death with reckless abandon, whilst the animalistic Schreckwolfen, genetically genetically altered beasts akin to the werewolves of myth enacted their first blood-curdling hunts. The relatively inexperienced allied troops who had relieved their comrades at the front lines and who had not had the misfortune of facing the Totenkorps months earlier fled in a renewed terror that swept throughout the Allied lines. The Axis operation had been hugely successful, reaching as far as Antwerp before being checked by the seasoned tired tired veterans of Operation Overlord who were hastily called back to the front lines to hinder the Axis offensive. By 2nd January 1945, the outskirts of Brussels had become embroiled in bloody combat. Shock and disarray swept the Allies, allowing Axis forces to universally reinforce and regroup throughout Western Europe. This forced stalemate that favored the Axis over the overstretched Allies. The wondering that the new. Oh wait, probably should read it later. Nah, the wondering that the new republic had at the time limited their Totenkorps deployments to rural battle zones, avoided the exposure of large civilian population, but in the chaos of battle, very few of the dead deployed could be realistically accounted for, and if not destroyed or directed, they would wander randomly. The increasing fake result were reports of their sighting and bloodlettings in the conurbations of Paris in the weeks following the liberation led to the creation of the special task force within the Guard Républicaine to seek out and eliminate such threats. This practice has since been adopted across continental Europe by military police forces of all nations, even within cities controlled by the Axis, lest their macabre creations escape and wreak havoc on the home front. Yeah. I can imagine the Axis wouldn't take care of Cotton Corps, meaning they wouldn't destroy them. They would be like, nah, putya, nah, come here to the truck. Come here. I'm fresh meat. Come here, follow me. And they will be like, human meat. Okay, but they actually cannot talk, or they can? I don't remember. They will just follow the fresh meat and back to the truck and to the front. Because to be honest, at the start they were truly limited numbers and they wouldn't risk to casually destroy. I cannot say kill. I would destroy the Toten Corps. Maybe later in the war when they had the means to uh, make more of the Toten Corps. Just saying. The battle for Brussels between April and May 1945 Operation Newport was launched. This was the Allied effort to regain the territory lost in the months prior. It would see the combat debut of the first US-developed reef-tagged weapons, the so-called Death Rays, derived from the designs of Nikola Tesla as well as their own powered armor. Yeah, it's Tesla. The electricity thing. If somebody doesn't know. Appearing the Axis design that had begun to appear on the front lines, many armored vehicles had been upgunned with the new Tesla cannon, the majority of which were Sherman tanks, and much faith had been placed in their ability to turn the tide through their destructive capabilities were undeniable. The Axis had developed similar weapons, with the Allies paying a substantial toll for every mile gained in Belgium. The legions of Totenkorps had been dwindling, also began to reappear across the Western Front in the even in ever greater number. Axis scientists, under the supervision of the head of the program, the enigmatic Albrecht von Zogling, had discovered how to replace the effect of the resident bombing on the newly dead. The battlefields of the Rift War could provide an almost inexcusable inexhaustible excusable. Okay, I'm fucking tired. You know what I mean. A supply of the flesh to supply this infernal war machine. During this time, a number of Allied scientists had been seconded to the front to more immediately study the applications of rig tech on the battlefield. Roberta Einstein Wells was amongst them and made an indelible impression on those she served with. Indelible. Indelible. Despite heavy losses, the Allies managed to gain enough ground in Belgium to immediately encircle several divisions of the Axis 5th and 7th armies late in May. With their refusal to surrender, what was to become known as the Battle of Brussels would bitterly endure for over 2 months. It would finally be broken by the development of the very first UR bipedal walkers. But their maneuverability found to be great boon in the confines of the urban war zone. The distraction of the besieged city resolved, the Allies now turned their attention back to Germany. Yeah. I don't know like you, but I only saw guys with the steward, with the Tesla steward. Like, okay, we all know the starter box. Okay, uh, starter box for the Americans is very good. I would say it has the most points out of all. Out of all mm, starter boxes, I think the Japan starter box is the least in points. Okay, that was like meant to be the one for the for the Soviet bloc, but it was cancelled, and it will reappear in somewhere in the late 2026, but in plastic, I've heard. So we can see more communist players than the United States players. Because let's be honest, plastic supremacy, and plastic is way better than resin and metal. Italy and the Gustav line. The head start in the rift tech development afforded to the Axis allowed them to deploy their new weapons on all fronts on which they were fighting. Thus, the Spinelite Volgas and Schreckwolfen units appeared in almost simultaneously on the Ostfront in the late 1944-1945, but also not long after in Italy. In the mountainous terrain, they were especially effective. The sudden shock and the awe of their appearance rapidly pushed the Allies back and eliminated all the hard-fought gains they had made in the preceding years. The forces of the fascist Repubblica Sociale Italiana Sociale or Sociale? Not sure. Had been formed in September 1943, shortly after Dresden bombing. They became subservient to the Axis. Through they retained some organization autonomy and enjoyed access to Axis developed Rivtech. By July 1945, the Axis had retaken Rome and pushed the Allies beyond the Gustav line, reoccupying and repairing those formidable fortifications. Despite the arrival and employment of some Rivtech, notably the US Firefly jump troops that were effectively deployed to blunt any overreaching Axis offensives. One of the technologies that has since been shared with the co-belligerent Italian forces. By mid-1946, most Allied troops had been reassigned to northern France, with only field armies, one British and one American remaining to support the esercito co-belligerante italiano. Italy was not largely the problem of the Italians. For the next year, Munizi's stalemate would ensure the prioritization for the allocation of the new material going to the northern France, particularly the latest Riftec coming from Los Alamos, meant that the Allied troops, along with those of the ISC, Estirito el SC, were under-equipped. The grueling campaign to bridge the Gustav line was also well embedded in the memories of the United States and British Commonwealth, and neither were willing to commit to another. So yeah. Okay, I'm gonna be dead anyways. I'm gonna fall asleep anyways. So I'm gonna end it here. I was planning to do 8-10 hour stream, but I'm gonna fall asleep right away. Also I have day off, but you can see it here. Ooh, we have so many of those pages to read and stuff. Yup. Oh, there's the rest of these game scenarios and shit. So yeah. So thank you for the stream to participating, even though no one typed in the chat, and I was probably some with the bots. So yeah, goodbye guys, and remember, enjoy life. Jesus loves you. Goodbye.